Welcome back. Now, every webinar, once you complete it, requires follow-up, and you need to do this follow-up as soon as your webinar is over. And as soon as you have completed your presentation, you want to go through all of the process to make sure you are going to receive maximum conversions and that you'll get the maximum number of people coming into your marketing funnel and your subscriber list. So what you'll want to do is you probably want to develop a checklist of things depending on which platform you are going to use. Now, if you choose to do a Hangout, one of the things that you're going to want to do is to make sure that your YouTube video is optimized for search. In other words, you will then treat your Hangout just like you would a YouTube video. Once it's completed, that means going back in, making sure your title is optimized, going back in, make sure your description is optimized. You will then do everything that you would do to a YouTube video to get it ranked to your actual Hangout. So it is a very important time to undertake that process as soon as your webinar is done. Obviously, you will get the most benefit, right, from rankings when people are talking about your video, when people are sharing your video, and as people are generating, more buzz for you, as people are doing the social sharing for you right after the webinar. You want to take advantage of that by making sure that your YouTube video is optimized, and you can do that best right at the beginning. Now, if you choose to do a webinar, you want to make sure that the emails that are going out will say exactly what you want them to say. Now, let me show you what that means here. We are inside of GoToWebinar, and what you want to do as soon as your webinar is over, you want to go and you want to personalize the emails that are going out. So this is going to be the subject line, and GoToWebinar is going to send these out. But you want to make sure that you customize the subject line, you customize what's in here, and you want to make sure it goes out when you want it to go out. The same thing you want to go out to the registrants that did not attend. So you have the opportunity for GoToWebinar to send emails to the people that have registered for your webinar. And you want to do this as soon after the webinar as you can. You don't want to wait for this, because this time period will will very quickly move up on you. In other words, if you miss the deadline, you can't go back and send the email. Once one day has passed, you will not get this window, you will not get this opportunity again. One day is the default, but you can actually send it out an hour after the webinar if you wanted to. You could send it a week after, but you've got to get in here and change it prior to 24 hours passing before your webinar started. If you don't, then you give up or you forfeit the opportunity to have the GoToWebinar system send an email for you. And there is no going back to call them and asking them to send it for you. Their system is their system. You've got to get in there before 24 hours passes. Now, you are also going to want to make sure that you process the replay immediately upon completion. And we're talking primarily about GoToWebinar, not necessarily talking about the Hangout, because we've already discussed that with respect to the YouTube video. And your sales really are going to depend on how fast you can get that replay to people. So there is a little process that you have to go through with GoToWebinar. And you are going to have to convert that video, and you're going to have to take off their coding system, or their codec as they call it, in order to turn it into an MP4 that most of your customers are going to use on their personal computer. Now, I'm going to show you the converter that GoToWebinar actually has. Now, if you follow the link in your clickable PDF, it's going to bring you to this page that will bring you to the GoToMeeting transcoding wizard. You want to download this transcoder to your hard drive, and then I'm going to show you what the transcoder is going to look like. It's going to bring you to a download page, and then you're going to click the download button here. Now, when you get it, you want to run this converter as an administrator. right? That's very important because if you don't, you will have problems with the actual file when you try to convert it. Now, the conversion process is fairly straightforward. You're going to be looking for that conversion document typically in your file. Now, if you're using Windows, the file is automatically created inside of your My Documents folder. So you want to find the webinar that you just created inside of the My Documents folder, and then you want to select it and bring it into the GoToConverter. Now it's going to load, and then you're going to click the start button, and then you're going to start the conversion process with the GoToConverter, and this will turn your file into an MP4 file that you are going to be able to use. Now the conversion process can take any place between 2 and 30 minutes. It just really depends on the file. It depends on what kind of information you are doing on the file. And you'll see this box, and it's going to tell you what's happening with the recording. And when it's 100% done, then you will have your MP4 file. Okay, just as a side note, you do have some control over how you process the recording. And you can actually, you can have the document saved wherever you want to, right? But you've got to do this before the webinar starts. Obviously, you've got to set your preferences. And you can have it so that the recording actually converts immediately to Windows Media Player file. Now, the warning for that is that when your webinar is over, GoToWebinar will take over your PC, and it will convert the file all by itself. This is extremely memory intensive, and you will not be able to do some of the follow-up steps that you really need to be doing once the webinar is over. So unless you have another machine that you're going to be working on, if you're going to be doing this on your primary computer, I'm going to say that you want to leave the default in the GoToMeeting format and then go through the conversion process manually, because then you will be able to control when it actually happens and when you actually do it. Now, GoToWebinar actually does give you some information on your actual webinar. You can use the registration report, attendee report, and performance report. Now, in particular, what this does is it gives you information on who actually attended your webinar. And if you want to send out that replay as soon as possible, you want to send out that replay, you're going to have to do it manually. Right? You probably don't want to take these names and put them in your autoresponder, but you can send a manual email based on the fact that they attended your webinar. Again, now you will probably need some support to do this. If you have 300, 400, 500 names of people who attended the webinar, but if you want to get that report out to them as soon as you can actually gather their names and email addresses from one of the registration report or the attendee report or the performance report or both, and then what you'll be doing is you will be exporting that information over to Excel. Let's take a look at the registration reports here. Now, when you get those registration reports, what you're going to do is you're going to get a CSV file, and when you generate with the CSV file, you will then be able to very easily take the names and email addresses and then put them into a format where you'll be able to send them out through your email, through your own personal email or through an email. But you want to make sure that you don't do it, maybe except for maybe 30 or 50 at a time. You don't want to get caught or caused to be a spammer. Right, so you're really just getting these info, and really you can also just rely on the GoToWebinar system. But if you really want to get that report out, you really want to get it to the people who attended or the replay, because you got sales on the line, then you want to get it out as soon as possible. And you can do this manually if you use this information that GoToWebinar provides you as soon as the webinar is over. Now, you will probably want to consider making that replay available only for a limited time for your product pitches, right? When you put your content webinars out there, you can convert them to MP4, upload them to YouTube, and then make them available to everyone. But when you are doing your product pitch, or if you're doing a private or exclusive webinar, you can, and this will actually increase the scarcity factor. It will be better if you can set a limit on how long that replay is going to be available. And once again, you want to get the links to attendees and non-attendees as soon as possible, and you want to use your email list if you can. If you can't use it and you don't really have a lot of your registrants on email, then you want to do it manually. And of course, you've also got the GoToWebinar system in order to do that. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in the next video.